Can I really find lasting change in my life? And we have a major announcement.
Hey Tyler,
Brannon, what's going on, man?
not much. I with that intro, it's like we want to just get into this. Like, holy cow.
Happy New Year, man.
Jeez, Happy New Year. Wow. Just
Yeah.
motivated and ready and just like let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm actually
Yeah.
really excited. Christmas was just a couple weeks ago, but I woke up today probably maybe more excited than I was for Christmas because I know what we're doing today. So I'm pumped. I'm excited.
Well, it's been a long time coming, and as we get into it today, we've dropped hints here and there, but as we get into it today, hopefully it's really clear what we've been doing, and it is exciting. Like we have good reason to be excited because we put hours and hours into this.
Yeah. And I think it's perfect timing with like the whole idea of, I've been working on some things just for the last week, first of the year. Everyone kind of gets the idea of like ideas of fresh start and changes. There's a few changes I'm trying to make in my own life right now that are always really difficult to try to start making when you haven't made them in a while. But it's exciting to think about being in the process of growth and change.
Totally. And it's perfect time of year for this. So, so I want to talk about some stuff, Tyler. Like the truth is a lot of this is a long time coming because of the things that we've learned and experienced through our experience of doing therapy. And as much as I hate to say this, a lot of our learning has come from understanding what doesn't work.
But I could say probably between the two of us, decades of trial and error.
Beating your head against a wall.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And when I say that, it's what's amazing, Tyler. I think back on my resilient clients that when I was doing it the wrong way, they still somehow found some healing. They still somehow moved forward. They still somehow changed their life and got different outcomes. Um, but there was something different about those resilient clients and the ones that continued to create the same thing again and again,
Kind of stay
um,
stuck.
and stay stuck. Um, and to me, what it is that they shift the way that they resonate. They shift their be. Um, is what really changes somebody and changes the outcomes in their life.
Yeah, and that's what we want to talk about today a little bit is this idea of change. When you go to grad school, they teach you this concept of something called first order change and second order change. And this is kind of like the nerdy type stuff. But what first order change is like, I wake up and I go to the gym today because I made a goal to go to the gym today. But then that maybe doesn't last more than a couple of weeks. But I made a little bit of a change, but it didn't really last. And what second order change is that something inside of me fundamentally shifts and leads to a lasting change in the outcomes of my life and in my behaviors. And in a certain sense, that's what we want to talk about today a little bit is the process of actual change in life and what are, you kind of said some things about the clients that you've witnessed over the years of doing therapy. Let's get into the details a little bit of some of the factors that you've found over the years of our own trial and error, our own growth, our own process as to what doesn't seem to work versus what we've found and what we've been a witness to in seeing it work in the lives of people for real.
Yeah, I think to back up and kind of dig down a little bit here, one of the big problems is that we look at healing as a thing that happens in your brain, in your mind. So if I'm coming into therapy and I'm thinking I'm meeting with a therapist or a psychologist or whatever, then they need to figure my brain out so that I can be better. And what there's a big problem with this. And the problem is that your brain is really good at creating protection for you, at creating survival for you. That's awesome. But depending on the trauma that you've had, the experiences that you've had, you have protectors all around you. And those protectors are the belief systems, the defenses, those type of things that then create the outcomes that you're getting in your life. And so it feels kind of counterintuitive a little bit to say, hey, let's unburden those protective parts. Let's get so conscious of how your ego is working here.
How
Like
you're
let's
self-protecting.
and how you're self-protecting, and learn how to not protect in that way anymore. Learn how to put that down and learn how to let that go. That doesn't happen in your head. When Tyler, if you were to come in and talk to me about your problems and I locked heads with you, egos with you, well, Tyler, you should do this, you should do that. What about this? What about that? What about this? And what will happen is like you'll think about it and you will amp up those protective parts. You'll go off that week and amp up those protective parts with it. Reclaim your heart. That's shifting something inside of you. It's soul work, it's healing, is way different than using your ego to try to get better in your life. And when you actually get conscious of your ego and you can unburden it, step through some thresholds, practice some courage, and experience something different, then everything starts to change.
Beautifully said, Brannon. And I think that that's it. So if you think about it, when most people go to a therapist's office, most of the work that's done, you could say, is in a cognitive fashion. That's when you're talking about with the brain, because the brain actually includes a lot of other things besides cognition. But we associate the brain with thinking. And the therapist goes and starts hammering away on all the belief systems that are keeping you stuck. And they're trying to help you shift or change the cognitions that are holding this life that you're living in place of being stuck.
Which can get some short-term benefits. It can
Yeah,
like all of our resolutions can last for a month here, right?
right.
Like,
Well, and I think I actually think the cognition is vitally important. But what you're saying, I think, Brannon, and what we both have kind of come to understand is the cognition, the approach on the change of the cognition is only a piece in the bigger picture of the entire vessel or being worked on and changed and shifted. This all kind of came together. Brannon, you were with me. We were meeting a couple of months ago, and someone that we both love, our friend and partner Chase, he gave us a gift. Do you remember the gift he gave you?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And we're really big on this idea of, as we go through our lives and as we kind of let go of those protective parts, the ego, and we start to step more fully into our power and understanding, we will uncover what we call our new names, that God's created us for, our identities, a more full picture of our identity. One of the things that he gave to me was, it was this like bolo tie that he created, and it had different symbols on it. Everything ranging from like certain things that symbolize who he thinks I am. He had a piece of a deer antler, and he had some feathers on it, and he had some other things on it. He also included, I think, the tooth of a jackass. But
which is fitting for you.
yeah, yeah. I think he knows me pretty well.
Yeah, I got one of
Um,
those too.
yeah,
Don't
I think
worry.
I think you did
Yeah.
too. So, but one of the things that was on there, and this is kind of coming back around to the point I'm trying to make, is he put a piece of a kind of a particular stone on there, and the stone is called agate, Agate.
Hmm.
And when I looked up the meaning or the power of that stone of agate, it says it has the ability to provide emotional healing to body, mind, and soul. That's that's what I think we're talking about here, Brandon, is that second order change includes not just the mind, but the body and the soul,
Let,
the heart.
let can I have my butt Tyler moment here for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
But Tyler,
Butt Tyler.
but Tyler, listen. And this is kind of devil's advocate a little bit. You're sounding kind of woo woo. You're sounding kind of out there. Here you are talking about feathers and antlers and crystals. Um,
Yeah.
right? And and so we're going from talking about not doing cognitive behavioral therapy kind of to let's talk about what it feels like to feel a stone, right? And I want to tie these together a little bit. Is the reality is whether you got a stone or whatever, you had an experience, and
That's it.
you remember what you got, you remember your experience, and it awakened something inside of you, right? It doesn't
And
have to be.
when you say remember, it wasn't just in the brain, Brandon. The remembrance is running through.
Yes.
Like even as I tell the
Yes.
story, I'm getting tingles just thinking about it. That he could have come to us and said, "Hey, Tyler, you have one of the ways that I see you is you have the ability. One of your gifts is to provide it's to provide emotional healing to body, mind, and soul."
Right.
That would have been cool. Thanks for the compliment. But for him
Right.
to provide the symbolism, there was something in the reception of that symbolism that almost blew through just the mind and went directly to the whole experience of my being going, can I accept that as truth? Is that actually how God sees me?
Right.
And something inside of me right here, I'm holding my chest right now and my core. There was as much energy moving through those parts of me as there was through this argument in my brain.
Right. Right. And Tyler, really, there's a difference between what your ego says that you are and who you actually are, right? And so when we built up all these constructs of the way, like when you got that gift, it was a reminder, like, oh, and I could tell some crazy stories about times when I've been reminded of who I am. But it hit you like, oh, I remember now. You remembered something deeper and more real. And your ego wasn't there saying, well, I should look a certain way, or I should say a certain thing, or I should be a certain way in order to be okay. It was this, like you say, tingles through your body of understanding who you actually are, which grounds you, which gives you peace, which gives you purpose. You know your purpose more fully when you had that type of experience.
Exactly. And I think, Brannon, what you were getting at earlier, I'm using this as an example. It's a personal example. And you and I could probably go back in our own lives and tell story after story of these little moments, sometimes bigger moments, where you would say something fundamentally changed and shifted in me as a whole being. And it also included the cognition.
Yeah.
And I think that's really one of the things that you were saying earlier about all these years of doing work with so many people. The more that we're in this game of trying to help people change, including our own lives, the more we've come to realize that change does not happen unless there is some kind of an emotional, spiritual experience that goes along with the cognition.
But that emotional experience or spiritual experience oftentimes comes through surrender. And
Yep.
that's where we get stuck, is the mind is there saying, don't surrender, don't let go, protect, protect.
When
And
you mean
so
when you say surrender, that's what you're saying is the letting go of or the kind of bringing down the ego parts to allow yourself to fully engage in whatever it is that is the
the
experience.
cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. What that means is that in order to go get that treasure, you have to get conscious of all your protectors. You have to get aware, you have to unburden that and have courage. You have to have the courage to step in, because when you have that courage, and the reason why is, like, if you've been taught your whole life that I'm unlovable, I had trauma when I was young, I'm unlovable. So I start to protect, I start to show up in this world as if I'm unlovable, I start to push people away, I start to distance myself, and then all of a sudden I get aware that my ego's doing that. I understand that, and now I get to go do opposite action from I'm unlovable. If I want to actually experience something different, if I want to actually have a white stone moment and know who I actually am, I have to step through that threshold and sit in that cave for a minute and either get rejected or get loved by somebody else. But at least I'll have a different experience.
That's exactly right, Brandon. You referenced the white stone moment, and I just want to make sure our listeners um, understand what you're talking about. So talk a little bit about the white stone.
Well, a white stone is, it's a biblical reference. I forget where it is. It's Psalms or something.
Revelation 2:17.
Boom, look at you. Um, just the scriptorian here.
What?
Um, but I mean, you can look up Whitestone. You can look it up on the internet, on Chat GPT, on whatever, and it talks about the symbolism of white stone is they say that you get a new name. And what that means is not that I go from Brannon to Bob or something, right? What that means is I actually understand who I am in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And a white stone, white symbolizes purity. The stone symbolizes eternity. So it's purely who you are forever is what a white stone symbolizes. So you're
Could I read the scripture, Brannon? Because
for
I think
sure.
the other part of the scripture to go with the white stone matters to what we've been saying.
Yeah, please.
And it says, He that hath ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit saith. To him that overcometh, I will give to eat of hidden manna, and I will give a white stone, and in this stone a new name written, which no man knows save he that receives it.
Yep.
So if you look at the precursor to that in that scripture, which I think is part of the principle we're talking about, is to him that overcometh, I will give to eat of hidden manna. We know what manna was. Manna was sustenance in the desert. Manna was the way that the children of Israel survived at the hands of God through faith. And if they were willing to step in to overcome and act in faith, which would be what you're talking about, entering the cave. The cave
Mm-hmm.
you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek, and the treasure becomes the sustenance, faith, and the white stone or the eternal new name.
And it's unique
Identity.
and it's unique for everybody.
And at the end, that's at the
It's
end
a
of the
knowing.
scripture,
It's a
it says,
knowing.
"No man knoweth save he that receives it." So I've received, and I will continue to receive for the rest of my life. At least we believe this, new names that will be applied directly to me and our listeners, if they're willing to submit themselves to the same process of entering the caves that they fear to enter, they will emerge with clearer pictures of their identity, not just in their mind, but as a whole being.
So Tyler, let's take an example to like make this more clear. So let's take an example that we get all the time. A highly religious man starts masturbating, looking at porn when he's 11 years old. Okay. And in so doing, he starts feeling bad about himself. He has some father wounds from childhood, some mother wounds, not major ones, but little t ones that like he doesn't quite understand. But he just gets a reprieve from the acting out. But it also makes him feel like shit, like horrible about himself. Okay. Um, and so he starts to believe like if anyone really knew me, they wouldn't love me. Gets in a marriage, immediately in that marriage starts manipulating, hiding things, not being authentic,
Trying to self
um,
protect.
protecting, feels worse about himself because now he's betraying someone, feels out of control with his sexuality, feels like he can't connect to God because he's not worthy. Have you ever met with a guy like this, Tyler?
I think a lot of our listeners would probably relate to this a lot.
Right. And why I want to bring this up is like we're not just talking about this because it's just some spiritual in the Bible thing. Like we're talking about uh, regaining an understanding of self. It's the core work that you need to do in your recovery. Um, it will shift your be so that you will do different things in your life and you won't be living in addiction. If you actually go do that work to understand that you're not the experiences that you've had, you're not what you've told yourself that you are for so many years. Um, you're not unlovable. You're not disgusting. You're not good enough for somebody. All of those things, right? Um, but you've been recreating that again and again and again in your life because that's what you've believed. And so you have to do this underneath work, this being work in order to shift what you're creating in your life.
I love it, Brandon. And with that, what you're saying where we formed those beliefs in the first place actually formed the same way we're talking about for making changes, which was through powerful experience, emotional and spiritual being changing experiences. To be the guy in our example of like doing some self exploration and then having some learning come through, let's say, a church or a family or something else, but to have it paired with the messaging of shame, of unworthiness, of badness.
Driving home.
It was the emotional experience that went along with the formulation of the behavior that makes it so hard to make the change. And so it would naturally make sense that in order to make the change, I need to actually go take what I'm afraid of, my brokenness, and I need to go take that brokenness to, say, a group of men or a therapist or a sponsor and actually show that brokenness and receive a different experience than what I had previously experienced.
Tyler, it was amazing at our last retreat. Um, like we don't just talk about this. We have seen it, we have experienced it. We don't facilitate it. I wouldn't say facilitate it.
Mm.
But we provide the context, we provide the guidance, and we let God do the work. And just at our last retreat, after the holotropic breath work, we were driving home, and one of the guys was like, he was in shock
He
almost.
just couldn't
Like,
believe his experience that he just
I
had.
don't believe that I just
He's probably
experienced
listening
that.
right now. If
But
you are, it was a gift for me to hear your story.
but I've heard that over and over again from the men and women who have been willing to surrender and let go, and God is there. Both the feminine, the masculine is there to love you, to be there for you, and to give you that white stone. Um, and having you now, when you have those experiences, a lot of times you go back into life and everything resonating around you is the same, but you can always draw back to that. You can always come back and say, yeah, I remember. We did an episode um, just a couple weeks ago, and he said he was talking about basically how much shame he has and how he's not okay. And he said, look, I did do plant medicine ceremony and I felt good. I knew myself. I loved myself. And remember what I said, Tyler? I was like, go back to that. Remember that.
Yeah.
Because he went there, he had that experience, he had a shift, and that can support him moving forward.
If he's willing to, as you use the words in our podcast a lot, Brannon, integrate that change. He
Yes.
can go and take that experience that he had and it was emotionally shifting. And now that it's emotionally shifting, he can then integrate that change. And this is the difference. And you talk about this all the time on the podcast. There's the, I'll, as soon as I do good enough, then I'll have God's love and then I can be somebody, good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
versus what the shift needs to happen in most people that we work with is they need to realize their intrinsic value and worth and lovability no matter what. And when they have an emotional slash spiritual experience that confirms that to them, then it builds from the inside out to, because I already am, I already have God's love. And the natural tendency then is to go and do those good works that I've always wanted to do. But now I'm doing it from a place of, instead of a place of deficit, I'm doing it from a place of abundance.
Yes.
Because I already know the truth. I've already received and accepted the truth.
Right.
Right.
Yep. It's kind of like, here's an example. Let's say that I know that I'm a good man and I go home to my wife and she gives me a weird look. If
Yeah.
I if I if all of my trauma and all my everything has told me that I'm a bad man and she gives me that look, I'm going to respond much differently than already knowing, already being, I am a good man.
Yeah.
She gives me a look. And then I can hold space with her. I can show up as a good man. I can be there for her. Right.
Yeah.
So you can see how the being, the knowing, shifts the doing and then shifts the outcome that happens in your life.
Okay. So Brannon, just to recap then what we've been talking about here, and people have heard us talk about this before. That's why we reference things like plant medicine and holotropic breath work and other
Group work.
experience-based work. Our retreat work is so powerful for us, and I know it's powerful for the people that come. It's all hinged upon this idea of creating the right set and setting to have an emotionally corrective experience that then allows me to take that shift in my heart, my soul, my energy, and then continue to apply it to the new life as I move forward by stepping into the caves that I have in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pathway forward to change. Now there's going to be, and this is maybe the exciting part for me, Brannon, is right now a lot of our listeners are going like, okay, like cool principles, like how do I go about doing that? And that's where I think I'm excited to talk about our big announcement today.
Yeah.
You know,
Tyler, I think we've run retreats, and we get to the end of the retreat and we give them a little speech of like, hey, you're going to go back to life, and this is kind of what you can do to like remember what you felt here and blah blah blah. But like, honestly, Tyler, there hasn't been a good way to integrate, is what I call it. I went to this conference on plant medicine journeys, and everybody was saying, yeah, you have an experience and it's awesome, but like the important work is the integration work. It's the ongoing reminders. It's the installing it into your being and your life. And hardly anybody has created anything like that to actually guide you and support you and help you integrate these things into your life after you've had those life-changing experiences. Um, so you and I got sick of that. We got sick of having that little speech. We put our money where our mouth is a little bit. We got to work and we created a process of integration through after having these. We call it emotionally corrective experience. I take it further. These deep spiritual healing experiences. Um, you have those, but then you need that support. You need that guidance going forward.
so that's what we've been working on, Brandon. It's been a long time. We've been working on this for a couple of years now. Um,
Break it
but
down for them, Tyler.
yeah, Brandon and I have created, and here's the big announcement, you guys. We're in the process of creating, and we have created what we call the healing journey. And it is an interactive course that is designed to do the things we just talked about. It's designed to create a set of skills for you to use to manage your emotions, your life, to then systematically identify your caves, identify your struggles, identify the places where you're going to experience the most growth, and
Your
then
belief
help you
systems.
walk through in emotionally corrective, spiritually corrective ways through experiences, those caves, and emerge with a new energy, a new look at your life,
New
not just
identity.
mentally, but to help continue in that process of uncovering and accepting the truth of your identity.
Yes.
And it's a process that is a course that has been designed, but the course includes throughout experiences. It includes targeted experiences, practices that are designed to help with that shift, that heart and soul work.
Yeah, and the journey, the process of it is supported by community and connection to other people, and even by you and I, Tyler, answering questions and being there for you. So that as it's not a you buy this course and everything gets better. This is a journey. This is a process. But as you work that process, you have the support, you have the structure, you have the guidance to actually start to get some of these answers.
That's been one of the biggest challenges that we've been trying to work through is how do we provide the right amount of support and structure, because what we're asking you to do is going to be challenging. It's going to
It's
stretch you.
massive.
And so what we've come up with is we've come up with a platform, and the platform is called reclaimyourheart.org. And on that platform, there are different tiers. So the healing journey is the course. It's the base. It's the thing that we want people to work because we know it'll change their lives. And we know it'll change lives because we've actually been testing it on our current groups for the last year, and we're seeing amazing things happening in the lives of the people that are doing this. I've been doing it myself, even though I've done a lot of these things before, and I'm experiencing continued change and growth. So we know that this works. We've been testing it for a year. The platform is built around the healing journey course that you can purchase as a standalone, and then you can come to the Reclaim Your Heart platform at the public tier, which is the first tier, for free. And that's where we'll post different videos, different kinds of, there's some resources that are there, something called the daily reclamation meditation, which is actually a little piece of the course itself. And then it tiers up. So then there's a second tier called the premium tier, which is just $30 a month. And that includes webinars and also Q&As with both Brannon and I on a weekly basis, so that as you work your journey, you're getting the community of other people who are working it, as well as the weekly interaction Q&A with
Yeah, you
Brannon
can
and myself.
interact with others and ask questions and get support all in there in the premium.
And then we have the highest tier, which is what we've been doing with our test, with our clients who've been testing this. It's the group tier, and that is $250 a month. And it comes built in with the course. And the course is the bones of the assignments that you work on. And then you process those assignments with your group as you move through them systematically.
Yeah.
So you can have as much or as little support and interaction as you want to dedicate your time and resources to.
Right. So you could buy the course and just try to be a bit more self-directed, use the community, um, or you could go all the way with it and you can work with Tyler or I in our groups, and we'll walk you through the process. And it's a commitment every week. It's a 90-minute group every week, but it's awesome to have that support through the process.
And if you don't have the time or the resources for that, then the middle tier is where you'll want to land. Well, you purchase the course and then you'll join the premium membership, and you'll still get a weekly call to help do some quick answers to questions as you're doing it. And you'll also have access to other people in the community to discuss your progress, to discuss the things you're running into, to potentially have some emotionally corrective experiences just by interacting with other people.
So, Tyler, let me ask you a few questions here. All right. Um, should I do this instead of betrayal trauma treatment or sex addiction treatment?
Brandon, actually, this is sort of built into the whole process of what we do. So you and I have both been in this game long enough to know that when I've experienced some form of trauma, the thing that brings me into treatment is the pain point. So it's the I've been looking at pornography, or I've been betrayed, or something else. But when we get down to it, down at the roots is the need to heal from shame and trauma,
Yeah.
regardless of the side. So this becomes sort of the bones of the deeper kinds of work, even though you might be coming in for any different kind of trauma or problem. When you look at it down at the roots, there's going to be the need to heal from shame and trauma. And that's what this is
Yeah.
designed to do.
Yeah. So in other words, yeah, if you struggle with betrayal trauma or sex addiction, this content and these groups are for you. But these aren't built for betrayal trauma and sex addiction. They're built for anybody who's had trauma in their life.
They're built for people who want to actually make the changes that will help them become more wholehearted in the way that they live.
Yep. Okay, next question. Should I do this if my spouse is unwilling to do it?
We both know, Brannon, that the recovery process, the healing process, the change of heart process is an individual process. And if you're in a relationship with somebody and there has been some kind of big problem, breach of trust or something, or big trauma, by nature, it would be helpful for both partners to be able to work their own process at their own pace. But yes, you're responsible to work your own recovery regardless.
Yep. Do I have to have a group to be successful?
You don't necessarily need to have a formal group, but you will need a team.
Yeah.
You'll need a handful of people that you can run the things that you're going to be doing in this course through. I'll give an example of this. You're going to be asked to do certain kinds of things. One of them includes like a 7-day challenge to cold plunge every day, and then do some notes and share that with somebody on your team. There's another one where you actually go through your life and your family and your background and an understanding of where you come from, so you can understand sort of your belief systems, with the challenge to then share your findings with somebody on your team. And you'll find that every challenge that you go through in the course, at the end of the challenge, the secondary challenge is go share your findings and process with somebody on your team. So
Yeah.
that could be a really good friend, that could be a sponsor, that could be a therapist, that could be, a group of people at church or whatever. We happen to have groups that are built specifically around this, and that can be really helpful and provide the structure and support necessary. But you will need people in your life to support you.
Yeah. So Tyler and I create the groups. You can join. It's kind of an easy way to get support system in place. Um, or you can go try to create a group on your own, but you need support.
You'll
You
need a
you
team.
need community.
Right at the
Absolutely.
right at the beginning of the course, I think it's the third section in the course. It talks all about how to build the right team.
Yep. So Tyler, I just wrapped up my first kind of, I'll call them beta groups last week, and I had a really hard day on Thursday. I was so sad.
I know you love them, don't you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, like
They're
these
doing
people.
such hard work too.
Well, when you've been through something with people that you connect, you bond on a level, and it's like these people I have seen shift and change, and just talk about the amounts of like humility that I've felt from them, willingness, courage, and we were crying together, we were talking together, we were just kind of loving each other. And I heard things like, I've never had friends like this in my life ever. Um, one guy in group, he went back and he actually started to interview his like the elders in his family to understand his trauma better, and he dug up family information that he never knew existed. And he was like, oh, I get it, I get why I am the way I am, like I understand it. And even to the point where he understood this pain inside of him and where it was stuck, and how to get that moving out of him through his work with his trauma. Um, we're talking deep root work that we do together and support each other in. Um, one person said, um, "This is in the top two things I've ever done in my life. Like it has changed my life more than anything." And I'm not just saying this; this was from them. Um, So yeah, I can sit here today as a big believer because I've been through it and I believe in it. Um, so I think one difference, Tyler, between you and I is just the plant medicine thing. I go on some retreats to some other countries and do plant medicine, but the content itself, Tyler and I, we developed it together, and it's very similar. And I definitely endorse going to Tyler's group. And I know you'd say the
I
same
100%
thing.
endorse them going to yours too, Brannon.
Yeah. And we don't care. I don't care if you go to Tyler's or mine. If you're getting the help that you need, that's awesome.
That's what we want. We're here, and I hope you can feel in the tone of our voice and the passion that both of us have. We we both feel called by God to be in the work that we're doing. And yeah, we're both imperfect. We're both works in progress. 20 years from now, Brandon will probably be having something that's even better than we have now because we'll learn as we go.
If we're still alive.
But but I feel very passionately about what we've developed, and I feel so proud of what we're developing. And it's just the very beginning still, but um, I can stand behind it. And I'll just echo and share a story myself. We just had a guy just share one of the other different challenges, and there's a whole bunch of them in there, but his challenge that he just shared a couple of weeks ago in group was that he goes through and he has to look at the resentments that he still holds on to in his life. And then he has to come up with a plan of what's the next step for each of those resentments. And inside of that assignment, he told some very personal stories. And at the end of the assignment and sharing in group with the guys, he said, "It never ceases to amaze me that every time I share something with you, I feel like I'm trying to push you away because I'm getting more vulnerable. And every time I share something, all I get is more love and more connection and more understanding. I've never experienced the kind of acceptance and love that I have by by being in this process." And when you hear that kind of stuff, when you see it in people's eyes, when you see the shifts start to take place, that maybe they could live a life where they look themselves in the mirror and like what they see
Yeah.
because something is shifting inside of them because they know they're capable of change and growth. I mean, I'm getting the chills talking about it right now, but it's like, what a gift. What a gift to be a witness of that. That's why we have the best job in the world, Brannon.
I love it. Yeah.
And that's I hope our listeners can feel that that's what this is built on
Yes.
is is we sincerely desire an actual change in your being
Yep.
for the better, for healing, for growth.
Amen. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. We got a question here, which I think is really important. We're two guys, Tyler, so it might seem that this is all guy focused, but um, I just finished a women's group last week as well, and um, this is not all guy focused. This is for men. This is for women. I've seen it shift women's lives. I've seen it shift men's lives. Um, and so, yeah, it applies to everybody across the board.
I just had, I run right now, I run three women's groups that are all doing this program too.
Yeah.
And they're doing the exact same program. The principles are true. There's a set of skills you learn, there's a set of challenges you do, and inside those challenges, there will be the opportunity for a whole bunch of self exploration, a whole bunch of growth, and a whole bunch of change. I just had one of my ladies, maybe again listening right now, just shared something we call the mask assignment uh, with a group, and in the aftermath of that, said, "Wow, like that just opened my eyes up to a whole bunch of ways that I hide and that I actually miss out on connection with other people." Um, and so, no, yeah, thank you for the comment and the question because we have probably mistakenly shared all of like guy focused stories, but this is for both men and for women. And 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 anyone who has been to our retreats, either men's or women's retreats, you'll see that the process that we engage in there is built into this course here. It's geared towards emotionally corrective experience.
It's the hero's journey. And
It's based on the hero's journey.
there are there's masculinity and femininity throughout. Both are at play in doing the healing experiences, and what it will do is it will help when we talk about white stone, knowing who you really are. It'll help you understand your masculinity and your femininity, and step further into that. So, Tyler, we could go on and on and on. We go. You can go to join.reclaimyourheart.org and you can find it there. This week is our launch week. So this week you're going to get the best price you can get.
Right
Half
now it's
off, right?
right now it's half off just for this week. So starting today at the time that we record this episode through Sunday at 10 p.m. Mountain Time, you can get it for 50% off. And you also, it comes included with a 3-month premium membership on the platform. So you can come to the Q&As, get a feel for what that's like, get started on the course. And it's priced at 50% off, which is at $250 if you purchase it this week before Sunday at 10 p.m. Mountain Time.
Yeah. I mean, that's an amazing value. We're trying to set you up for success where you can get the course and you can get the community at the same time.
Get a taste of all of that. And again, join.reclaimyourheart.org. It is also in the show notes. So you can click on that link. It'll take you directly to that. You can purchase it. It'll automatically give you that discount for this week.
Tyler, anything else?
No, I just, after talking about all this, Brannon, and you were telling some of the stories about the guys and ladies that you work with, and I'm sitting here thinking about my own group of clients that I work with and the people that I love, and I just want to express. I know this might seem a little cheesy to you. You've always made fun of me for being a little too emotional, but I want to express genuine gratitude and love to all of our listeners too.
Mm-hmm.
We feel your support. We hope you know that we care. We love your feedback. And I just want to say thank you to you for the support that I feel for being here and being a part of the journey with us.
Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing you in there, getting to know you, supporting you, watching the transformation take place to find peace again and to reclaim your heart.
Again, one more time, join.reclaimyourheart.org. Get it done before Sunday at 10 p.m. Mountain Time. And we love having you guys. If you know anybody who would benefit from this, please share it with them. And until next time, keep on keeping on.